Welcome back. It is always a good day. When I wake up, give thanks, and I know it's a day that I am privileged to step out into my small little studio in San Diego, California, and introduce you to a very cool human being. My guest today is Rob Weldon. I'm going to introduce Rob in just a second. He's an author, prolific writer, which you're like, it's almost frightening how much this guy writes and how often and what great quality product he is turning out, and where his ideas come from, God only knows. It's quite a jumble of interesting stuff going on in that brain of his. Just want to say, great listening. I cannot believe how many countries are on board now. Of course, the US, Canada, the UK is coming in nice and strong. Australia, Ireland, New Zealand, Israel, which is brand new, Norway, and Guatemala. So those are my top countries right now. And I'm very grateful, because the only way a podcast can grow and does grow is by downloads and shares and telling your friends, tapping them on the shoulder, saying, hey, this show is very cool. It's the next room. It's every facet of death, which leads to life, which leads to maybe other life or afterlife, if you're so inclined. The author that I have on today is an old friend of mine from Michigan. We actually met in the record business in Los Angeles. Lo and behold, we're both Michiganders, which is a very cool connection. His name is Rob Weldon. Rob has now released his fifth book in the Omnist series. It's called Wide-Eyed Wyatt's Liquid Nap. And we're going to talk all about this book and the other four that came before it, and also a very cool thing that he's doing called a lodge. Rob Weldon, welcome to the next room.
Hey, Jane, how are you?
I'm doing great. I'm doing great. It's always fun to see you. You're like the total silver fox now.
I got old.
No, you didn't get old. I think it's
Well,
all that writing. First and foremost, congratulations.
thank you so much.
Book five in this series. And it is a series, but yet it's not like the stories all blend together.
Correct.
Let's talk about that and how this concept came to be.
Yeah, I was really inspired by Terry Pratchett. He has a series called Discworld, where it's all in the same universe, but the stories are not linear the way that, say, Harry Potter is or Lord of the Rings is. Um, you can have different protagonists, different main characters, different points of view, and it's all within that universe. But you can read the books out of order, whichever tickles your fancy. If you're really into cats, you can read mostly human, mostly cat. It doesn't have to be in order. And so anyway, that's the concept, and I love that because it helps me by picking three POVs. I can triangulate a truth better. So it's just a concept for each book. I can find that that spark better. I guess.
I love that. Where did or where or when, I should say, did you first say, okay, I am going to pivot and become a writer?
I had always written. I went to college on a scholarship for writing, um, but I also knew that music is in my blood, and I wanted to work in the music industry as well. So I right out of college, I got a job at a record company, and that severely cut into how much I wrote. So I mean, I did write on airplanes and in hotel rooms and places like that, but it wasn't until the pandemic that it really hit another level where it became a daily thing instead of a weekly thing.
Right. Yeah, I think there was a bunch of us that kind of tucked into our own little corner of the world and began writing, in earnest daily at that point. I mean, what else were we going
Yeah.
to do? Walk around the backyard with a mask on? Um, What is a lodge? Now, I've read your books, and the one that I love that you did was clearly about the lodge and all of that. But now it seems to me that it's come to life. Let's talk about what a lodge is and how the concept of what you were writing about now has become something that is actually real.
Yeah, it's super. I feel like the story about it is less exciting than the actual thing. Um, I was asked by there's a shop called the Crooked Path in Burbank, California, and they're selling my books, and they asked if I wanted to do an in-store signing. And people want to work with you. You say yes, especially at the level that we're at. I'm not Neil Gaiman, so I can't be saying no to stuff. And they're wonderful people too. I want to do this, but I was stressing out really hard getting closer to the date, and it just came to me. I'm like, oh my gosh, in the book series, in the Omnist series, in that universe, events are called lodges. And at a lodge, people may drink free tea, might be free tarot readings, and an omniscient, a speaker, will get on stage and talk about their truth. And their truth could be, you should worship the goddess sleep, and have a better life. The goddess of FOMO. Um, Everybody has something to say, and some of it's comedy, and there's dark humor in it. Some of it's life affirming. It's just a wonderful concept, and I realized that instead of doing an in-store signing, I'm going to host a lodge. So I've hosted two of them so far. Um, at each of the first two, free tarot. There's a woman, Christy Edwards. She does a site called Halloween Horror Haiku, where she writes spooky haiku, and she was inspired by the book series. So at the first two lodges, she read haiku inspired by the books, and that's just wonderful to me because it was another way of sort of in making the fictional world the real world and just blending the boundaries of what's real and what isn't. And I read from different books, had an omniscient speak about litany and how even just showing up to the crooked path, you're putting one foot in front of the other. It's a list of things to do to get you where you're going. And at the base of it, that's what litany is. And somebody else spoke about surrealist sexualities. She's actually the dean of art history um, at Phoenix College, and she's wonderful. And so that was a really cool idea. The second lodge, my daughter was actually an omniscient. She's going to Cal Poly. She's majoring in biology and minoring in ecology. Someone's got to save this world. We're handing her a horrible planet.
Mm,
Um, that she's going to save us, I hope. Not to put pressure on her, though. And she spoke about what happens to bodies after they die and why we feel this need to preserve them, whether it's in formaldehyde or at saving the ashes or putting a butterfly in a shadow box or insects in amber or, you know, a snake in alcohol. We have this need to try to hang on to things, and and that was just wonderful hearing her speak about this. And then someone else talked about the spirituality of bathrooms and why is it that we have revelation? Why do we have revelations when we're on the can or in the shower or at the club about people we came with or people we just met? There's not enough focus on what is it about bathrooms that make us who we are.
mm,
And think about it. We all prepare ourselves before we go somewhere. Even before
sure,
this meeting, we both probably looked at ourselves in the mirror.
sure.
You know,
Yeah,
so
bathrooms are sacred, man. They're great.
great, right? So,
Yeah.
so this next lodge, I'm very, very happy and honored that you are participating. I'm ridiculously excited about this, and you set off a chain reaction. I was asked by another author. His name is William Shun. I like to say he's further up the food chain than I am because he's been nominated both for a Nebula Award and a Hugo Award. In the world of science fiction, that's like an Oscar and an Emmy. It's
Right.
amazing. And he's going to be in LA. He's flying in from Denver for this, and he's going to speak. And I don't want to give away what he's going to talk about, but I'm excited, very, very excited about what he's going to talk about. And then I spoke to my friend Burton C. Bell. He's the lead singer of a band called Fear Factory. Um, I was lucky enough, fortunate enough to work with him for many years, and I have a gold record of Fear Factories on my wall at home. And he has written for Pantera, had a graphic novel come out, and he wrote a piece for that, and he's writing a piece for the Slipknot graphic novel coming out. And he also has just published a collection of photography book as well. So he's going to speak. And again, I'm just shocked and happy and grateful that this concept seems to be blowing up. It's getting bigger and bigger. They moved at the Crooked Path. The first two were in a smaller room, and they were very filled. So now they're moving us into this much bigger room. Um, and yeah, it's going to be super fun. But I love that it's becoming a real thing, and
Yeah.
people seem to really be getting into the idea of it. At the Emporium in the fictional universe, um, every everybody there has a different personal God package. Like the Omnist app recommends what gods they should worship, what prayers they should recite, what merch they can buy at the store, daily affirmations and reminders and things that if you're the type of person that can't get out of bed, it might remind you to get out and do something. If you're the kind of person that never slows down, it might tell you to stop and breathe and count. And it's very personalized. um, so because everybody has a different personal God package, you have to be accepting of other people's ideas and their truths. And I feel like that's exactly what's happening here. Now, of course, we're not really telling you you need to worship these gods
Well,
and
sure.
what, but it's fun. Everybody's really getting into this, and there's no pressure. It's just
Mm.
really cool people, very artistic, very supportive, and I don't know. I'm excited you're going to be part of this because you are exactly the kind of person that I envision and is showing up to these things.
I love it. I think it's a really fun concept. And I think that you brought up something very key. Each human being that is having this life experience has their truth, whatever that may be. And none of us really know what's really making another person tick and what speaks to them. So it's a really fun, genuine approach um, to just kind of different ideas and
Yeah,
acceptance is key, because I believe in the afterlife. I don't believe other people should buy into that, but if someone does, then I'm all about having a chat with them. If they don't, that's okay too. It's like it's the truth of your understanding. Let me just reset just for a quick second. This show is actually airing with Rob. It just posted on September 25th, 2023. Just in case you're listening, you're somewhere and you're thinking, oh, gee, I'd love to go to this lodge. We would love to have you. It's moved to a bigger room. It's at the Crooked Path in Burbank. It is Saturday, October 14th. What time, Rob?
4:30 we'll start the tarot.
Okay.
The event should start at 5, and it only goes until 6:30. These are like happy hours. We're
Okay.
not trying to take away somebody's entire evening.
Right. Yeah. I'm not going to be droning on and on. I'm going to just make it short and sweet and to the point. And I have to say I'm a little bit nervous because you're getting very big names to do this and I just have my ideas and I have the proof that I've had with what I have opened myself up to on my life's journey. Um, but hey, you know what? It's all good. I'll be there. I'll have some fun with it. If somebody thinks I'm, as my mother would say, flipped my dome doily, that's okay. I'm all right with that. Um, so the new book, Wide-Eyed Wyatt's Liquid Nap, set
Yeah.
the tone for that book. Where did this come from? Because it's set in a coffee shop. Talk
So
to me about it.
even though I don't, even though I say that you don't need to read the books all in order, it is true you don't have to. But there are Easter eggs in there for people that do. And one of them is a company fictional company based in Van Nuys, called Wide-Eyed Wyatt, and they're a coffee roaster. And the one of the main characters of this book works at Wide-Eyed Wyatt, and he's a consummarian. So he obviously attends lodges, and he is also an Ambrosian. Who Ambroise is the god of sleep in this universe, and Nina Malay is the omniscient for the god of sleep. So this is the first time I've written the book from the perspective of a god, from the omniscient for that god, and from a consummarian who's attending the lodges. And without getting too far into it, Gable realizes and figures out with Nina that this god of sleep wants to kill him. And obviously, the god of sleep doesn't like coffee or caffeine because that's the antithesis of what should be happening for him. But they end up drinking this product called Wide-Eyed Wyatt's Liquid Nap. It's a 4-shot espresso drink. While they're trying to figure out what they need to do so he doesn't die, they're staying awake while they're figuring this out.
Hmm.
And it's just funny. Again, dark humor.
Right.
It's fun.
Yeah. Are the ideas that you have, because each book of yours is so unbelievably unique. The characters are very strong, the whole concept of Lodge, and I can see an app. I mean, I can see an app developed.
I
Uh,
would love that.
well, I would love to see you do it. I kind of feel that that's the natural next step to what you're offering, just in the world of technology and where we are. Because the entire time I was reading book number one, and they would get pings, and it would tell them, like you said, if they were agoraphobic and they didn't want to leave the house, it would encourage them to step out their front door or whatever it is. Um, it's such a cool concept. It's so fun because all of us have our little computer in our pocket, right? I mean, we're
Yeah,
all walking around with these computers. So I would encourage you to find a very good techie friend and get cracking on that, but not to slow you down, because I have a feeling that book number six is probably right around the corner. Am I right?
I was working on it before this interview.
I love
Yeah,
that. Can
it'll
you,
be sometime in the first quarter.
okay. Can you share anything, or is it still,
Yeah, I don't want to get too far into it, but it's the first one that I picked around the Halloween time. I feel like my book series lends itself to that vibe and that atmosphere, but I avoided it intentionally in the first five books because I felt like that was the easy rung. That was the obvious thing to do. So I'm trying to avoid the obvious with this book series. I don't know if you noticed that as well, but this is the first one that really does take place then, and people that love Halloween are going to love the Emporium. So I do have that, but people are going missing at a Halloween party in North Hollywood, and they're trying to figure out why and how and are they really. I feel like I have a pretty creative reason for why they're disappearing,
mm-hmm. Okay.
but I will say that the title is called The Soul Phone Collector, and pun intended, The
Okay.
Soul Phone Collector.
Yeah, I love it. When you were a kid growing up, Rob, were you one of those kids that was maybe misunderstood, or um,
Aren't
did
we
you?
all though, Jenny?
Yes, that's very true. Good point. Very
Yeah,
good.
I absolutely felt that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because I'm just thinking this creative, all of what you have to give and that you're pushing out of you through your pen to paper or on your computer or up here. Um, it's pretty remarkable, the pace that you're going here. I mean, you really are a creative genius in my mind. Uh,
Aw.
I'm I'm just absolutely amazed at what you've got going on. So good for you.
Well,
Anything
thank you.
anything strange that you can share with us that you did as a child that somebody was like, huh?
I just had this conversation with somebody this last week. We were talking about the first story that you can remember writing if you can remember what it was about. So, what's the oldest story you can remember writing? And I remember mine, and I'll tell it to you now. I'll be quick, but I believe I was in about second grade, and in Michigan, as you know, quite often your recess didn't go outside. If the weather was very poor, you'd have indoor recess. And there was silent seat ball, which was we had a foam ball, and it was basically dodgeball, but you're sitting on top of your desk. And then when you got hit, you had to leave. So sometimes I would want to immediately get hit because I don't know, the game bored me. And my friend and I, Jacob, he and I would write stories to try to scare each other. And I remember taking mine home. I was especially proud of this particular one. And I remember reading it for my older sister and my older sister's friend. And she was 10 years older than me. So when I was like, say, seven, she was 17, and so was her friend. And Debbie was always very supportive of me, as a writer, as basically anything that I did. She's a wonderful human. Um, but this particular moment, though, you know, teenage girls, they weren't always super nice at that exact moment. But I gave her the story. I'm like, please read this. And she read it. And I remember it was about a boy and a flashlight and a cave, all the tropes. But somehow that character knew he was going to be in this cave for a long time. So he packed a sandwich in his pocket. And they laughed and laughed when they read that. Like they stuck a sandwich in his pocket. And this is back when people were wearing tight blue jeans and whatever. Like, really? And I remember being very hurt by that. And then after Debbie's friend left, Debbie was like, just so you know, this is really good. And we didn't mean to laugh. It just is like, that's a funny concept, sticking a sandwich in your pocket because you're going into a cave. And she was still very supportive, but I just remember that it's been fried into my brain.
Wow.
So that's the oldest story I can remember.
How old were you at the time? 7, you
Uh,
said?
yeah, probably about 7. I think I was in second grade.
Wow. I love that. So this has
Oh, and
been
by the way, in the other trope,
yes.
the character wakes up and it was all just a dream, and then looks over at his desk and sees the book that he found in the cave. Oh, but it wasn't.
Ooh,
Ooh, spooky.
ooh, that's good.
A little kid,
That's
but it's the
good.
trope. But this is before Goosebumps, but it was
Right,
very Goosebumps ish.
right. Yeah, I was the Hitchcock kid. My mom had a subscription. He had a little teeny magazine. It was really small and it was came out monthly and it was a big deal to have a subscription back then, money and all of that. But boy, that thing would come and I would sit so quietly in this pea green chair in our living room and just devour it. And I was so quiet while I was reading that I used to scare my mom because she would forget I was even there. Because
Wow.
yeah, it was so fun. Oh my God. Isn't that
She'd get
great?
scared. Yeah, it was so fun.
It was fun. It
I
was
love
fun.
it.
I was a very odd child. And as you can see, it just kind of continued on.
Oh
Wow,
yeah.
how cool. Rob Weldon is my guest. The Crooked Path in Burbank on Saturday, October 14th, 4:30. It's like a happy hour vibe. He's going to have a lot of fun speakers, and it is a lodge, and you can come and check it out. It is not a boring book signing situation.
And
Um,
it's free.
oh, I love that. See, that's even better. That's awesome.
Mhm.
Um, so how many people will be at this lodge? You're going to have,
Well, the first one I want to say was in that 40 to 45 realm. The second one
okay,
was in 45 to 50 realm, and now they're moving me to the bigger room. I'm expecting at least 60 people, I would say.
okay.
But
Does
who
it cut?
knows? We
Right.
can't future. I'm not a
No.
mystic.
Well, and
I,
also I
I might
do
be mistaken, but I'm not mystic.
I like that. Um, what a cool thing though. I mean, it's just such a great thing that has come to life through your creative brain and what you have written. And it's so neat that it just sort of like instead of going and sitting and autographing books and being like only talking to one person one on one, you're recreating this very cool, energetic vibe of people that want to learn more about different topics. And then by bringing in different speakers from different realms and different belief systems, because we all have different belief systems,
Yep.
um, or lack of a belief system, it's very fun. It's such a great idea. Uh, what do you want to talk about? Like, what is it that really is juicing you right now? Like, just talk to me because we've got a few minutes left. I want this to be the Rob Weldon half hour.
Yeah, it's odd. I can't really think of anything. You're giving me too much of a blank slate.
Ah, okay.
I'm white screening.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's probably hard for you too, right? I need to pinpoint. Okay, so exactly who will be at the Crooked Path on Saturday, October 14th?
So,
Let's give them another plug. Let's
yep.
give Crooked Path another plug. And like I mentioned before, all the links to Rob's books, I'll just put his website up there, all 5 that are available right now, and also a link to the Crooked Path so you can figure it out.
So
As far as it,
besides, I was just saying, but so besides you, obviously, which again, this started this whole trajectory for this particular lodge. So thank you again for being part of this, and you guys can meet Jane in person. She's
yay, I hope I don't get booed off the stage.
but also William Shun, who is a science fiction writer, and Burton C. Bell, who was former lead singer of the band Fear Factory and sold a couple million records, and another amazing, wonderful human. You can think metal, and you might have one idea, and then you meet him, and you realize that he's one of us. He's an artist, he's a creative, he's a writer. Um, he thinks outside the box. This is going to be so much fun. I'm so excited.
It's cool. You've gathered a lot of fun people on this ride that you're doing. Can you just tell the story? And if you don't want to, you don't have to, but you told me a story about a gentleman who you did not expect to read your books because of his profession. And he started
Yes.
reading them. Would you share with us, or is that too personal?
No, I think I can share it. I just want to make sure that I'm not offending people by me being impressed by this. But yes, there's a person that I know who is a pastor of a church, and he has been reading each book as they come out. And after the third book, The Omnist and the Cosmic Egg, that particular book, without giving too much away, there's a condition called Cotard's delusion, where you literally think you're dead. So you may not eat for a long time. You might walk into traffic because the cars will drive right through you, right? So it can be very dangerous. And then at a certain point in the book, an accident happens, and he spends the rest of the book trying to convince people he's still alive. And I just think that's funny, but that deals with the concept of a soul. And there's different people in the book, and a brother and sister have opposite views of it. One thinks that the soul grows as your brain grows, as a human condition, and the other, his sister, believes that the soul moves from vessel to vessel. And both these beliefs are common, um, but by having somebody go from thinking he's dead to still being undead, um, the concept of the soul is brought into focus. And he apparently, my friend used my book as an example in one of his sermons.
Wow.
And like, oh my gosh, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to offend your, what you were pitching. He goes, no, 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 no. This is actually really good. I meant this in a good way. I suggested people read it. And I'm just very honored by that, obviously, because I really am not trying to write about religion. I'm trying to
No,
write
of
about
course not.
how all have different ideas of how the world works, and that's really what I'm writing about.
I know you are. And that's what's great about it is I don't feel like you're trying to force anything. I think this is your brilliant imagination, and you're putting your ideas down and you're coming up with things that actually make us think, which is a very good thing. We're here to think. We're here to make decisions on what it is that we want to do, and how we want to have this life experience unfold. Um, Belief or no belief, it's
Right.
really an individual's choice, which I love. So good for you. Rob Weldon, fabulous guest, written 5 books. The newest one is Wide-Eyed Wyatt's Liquid Nap, The Patina of Dorothy Grant, The Omnus and the Cosmic Egg, which was book 3, Mostly Human, Mostly Cat, number 2, and Consuming Spiritual Emporium is number 1. And I loved your new banner on Facebook with all of your graphics from your books.
Oh yes, the Google Slides photo.
Yeah, I thought that was really beautiful, and just made me very, very happy, and proud of you, just as from friend to friend, to see someone literally leaning into their creative genius and their gifts and just putting it out there for people to enjoy. And people are loving your books. I mean, they're loving this series. Um, One last question. If you had a magic wand, which you said you don't, but if you had a magic wand, what is your overall reach for this Omnis series? Like, where do you feel it's going to go? How many books?
Hmm.
How many books, Rob Weldon?
Hmm. Bare minimum, uh, I, I've already written 8 books. So
Wow.
bare minimum, it would be those 8. But I had already begun plotting out, and taking notes for book 9. But I stopped and went back and started revising book 1. So I know I have 9. I feel like 13 is a nice, you know, loaded number.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, I do want to tie up a lot. There's a lot of loose ends. Every book ends with more questions than answers. But I do have an overall vision of this universe, and it would take probably 3 books to tie them all up. So I figure, okay, 10 books plus 3 tie-up books. I think that would probably do it. But who
Beautiful.
knows? I mean, theoretically, I mean, these are questions we have daily.
Sure.
Every billions of people have these questions daily. I theoretically could write this series forever if I wanted to. I don't know that people want to read it if I did. I think that was one of the downsides of Terry Pratchett's Discworld, if there is to be said a downside. I've read about 15 of those books, and maybe it's too many. I think there's 41, if I recall correctly. I think that's too many for that one universe. I think at a certain point you start repeating yourself, and I
Yeah.
don't want to. I don't want to end up doing that.
Right. No, I hear you there. Thank you so much for coming back on The Next Room. Rob Weldon, my guest, prolific author, just an amazing writer. The Crooked Path, that is the next lodge, Saturday, October 14th, 4:30 in the afternoon. Please join us if you're somewhere in the neighborhood in Burbank, or if you're driving down from Santa Barbara, or if you're coming up from San Diego. We would love to see you. It'll be really fun. Oh, look, I wanted to show you my shirt. Can you read what it says?
Oh, Detroitish.
That was in honor of you.
I
You
love
know,
it.
being the Michiganders that we are. And I grew up in the Thumb, but I, went to school in Detroit, and I loved 8 Mile and just love that city so much. It gets such a bad rap, but it's such a great city.
It
So
absolutely is.
yeah, I'm seeing a lodge, and I'm feeling a lodge in Detroit. So
I would love it.
I'm just gonna put that out there. I feel like Ann Arbor would be a great spot for a lodge. Also, there's a cool spot up in the Thumb too that I think would be wide open to doing it. So I'm just gonna put that out there, and we'll just see if we manifest that in the future.
I
Coming
would
in
love
the
that.
future. Awesome. Thanks so much for joining me again on The Next Room. I really appreciate it, Rob.
Thank you, Jane.